there's a little sneakiness going on involving the Biden administration. Doesn't surprise me. Shouldn't surprise you either. Those record numbers coming from the border of people crossing, it's kind of dropped off the headlines a little bit. Why? Well, Todd Bensman, Senior National Security Fellow for the Center for Immigration Studies and the author of Overrun, How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in U.S. History, is with me to explain. Todd, good to have you here this morning.
Good morning. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Greatly appreciated. Now, we got up to 15,000 a day. I'm not sure what the actual total record day was, but it was in that neighborhood. Jay Johnson back during the Obama years said if you had 1,000 a day, it was a problem. Yeah. We had multiples of that. And Jay Johnson said there was a border crisis for years now, which there is a crisis now. All of a sudden, it's fallen off the headlines because there's something sneaky going on behind the curtain. What is it, Todd?
Well, do you remember when President Biden went down to Mexico on December 22nd? Big state visit down there in Mexico City with President Obrador. A week later, he sent Antony Blinken and Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of State and DHS Secretary, to meet also with the President, Obrador. But nobody talked about what the deal was or what they came away with. Well, we know what it is now. It was a deal to have Mexico start doing crackdowns that the Biden administration refuses to do or won't do. What that entails is that Mexico finally, after 3 years, has decided to blockade all of the cargo freight lines that the immigrants were using. Hundreds of thousands of the immigrants were getting free and easy transportation to all of our border cities on these freight trains. All they had to do the whole time was just go in there and block them from getting on these freight trains. They're doing that now. Also, Mexico has started rounding up thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants on their northern border with us and shipping them to the southern province of Tabasco and Chiapas by air and by bus, thousands and thousands of them, so that they can't cross. And they also are bulldozing migrant camps all along the border that had acted as a kind of a beacon for, NGOs, and everybody was...
and why are we not hearing this? Why is this happening in secret? That'd be my question. Obviously, this would be good news. This would be the American public saying, thank God Joe Biden's finally doing something for the American people. But I think there's more to the story here, because I think you believe, from what I'm gathering here, this is temporary. This is an election year stunt, isn't it?
Well, yes. The numbers that we were seeing just a month ago in places like Eagle Pass, 14,000 a day, the biggest in American history, are now down to about 5,000 a day, 6,000 a day maybe. That's still catastrophic, by the way. That is, like you said, Jay Johnson, 1,000 a day would, ruin his day. And Mexican media is covering this. You can find it all over Mexican media, but not one story in the U.S. media yet. But watch out, it's coming, because
it's here today. We're covering it right now, Todd, and so that's step one. We're covering it right here, telling the truth about what's happening at the border. So what you're telling me is Mexico stepped up, kind of a secret deal with America, bulldozing migrant camps, shipping migrants back to the southern parts of Mexico, saying go back the other way. But it's only to create political favor for Joe Biden and Obrador, and it's only temporary. If Joe Biden were to somehow come out on top in November of 24, which I find highly unlikely, but if he did, they would open the floodgates right back up with no stop at all, is what you're telling me.
That's right. My understanding, I haven't corroborated this, but I have one source that's well-placed telling me that this deal is in place to the end of November of this year, and then after that, all bets are off. And keep in mind that, the polls are just absolutely devastating for Joe Biden's campaign on this issue. It's right up there with inflation and everything. So they realize that they're wide open to losing a thin margin kind of election. And for Obrador, They hate Trump down there. They had 4 years of him. Trump was kicking back hundreds of thousands of migrants into Mexican territory. They don't want to see that again. So for both of them, it's advantageous to keep Trump out. A big question is whether Mexico can continue to hold back the flow, because those migrants riot. Those immigrants down there in their southern provinces, they're building up into the tens of thousands down there. It's like a Gaza Strip. If you read the Mexican media reports, I don't know if they're going to be able to hold them back at the roadblocks and even on the trains and for a whole year. That's a big ask. Another big question is, like, what did we give Obrador? The biggest state secret right now is, like, what was the deal that we cut? Neither side will say.
What did he get in return? So Todd, we don't know. Todd Bensman here, Senior National Security Fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies. We don't know what his prize package included, is what you're telling me.
Right. A prize package. I guarantee you he's not doing this out of the goodness of his heart. He did ask for $20 billion. In assistance for Mexico and some of the Central American countries. We'll see what that is. At some point, it's got to come out that money changed hands, is what I'm guessing. It's going to be some kind of carrots. Donald Trump was a big stick kind of guy. Big sticks really work on Mexico. Cash does not work on Mexico. We've seen this before. They'll pretend for a while, and then they'll let them go because it's a domestic political problem for the Mexicans to have rioting tens of thousands of people in Mexican cities, foreign nationals. It'll be interesting to watch. You're probably not going to see much coverage of this in the U.S. media at all. They're not covering a lick of
But
this.
at some point, Todd, we're going to cover it, as we always do. We cover the border crisis better than anyone here on this program, I believe. But at some point, they're going to have to come out and talk about it, because how do you get the political benefit of it if you don't talk about it and get your cohorts and your shotgun, people riding shotgun with you to report it? If they don't do it, you don't get the benefit. Somebody has to talk about it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, what your viewers should probably look for is a victory lap. So look what we've done. We've got it under control. Even though 5,000 and 6,000 illegal crossings a day, is absolutely historic and beyond the U.S. experience, which should tell you what 14,000 a day was like. They just want to keep this out from media cameras. That's as long as this thing is happening, but nobody's paying attention. There's no Fox News drones or Real America's Voice talking about it. They're happy. That's a success for them. Not that they've stopped, blocked.
But at some point, like you say, they have to take the victory lap at some point and claim that they've done something great. Todd Bensman, I have to leave it there for today. Thank you for telling the truth and bringing this to everybody's attention. They've not heard it before. Now they've heard it. There's a game being played to limit, at least to some extent, the border crossings to get political benefit to the Democrats, who have done nothing for 3 years. Todd, thank you.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. I mean, there's a big story. You're not going to hear that anywhere else, not today. This is the Steve Gruber Show.